Welcome to MLA Notes, MLA 8th edition that is. What does MLA stand for? MLA stands for Modern Language Association. So, the Modern Language Association is a group of professional scholars who create and periodically update a universal set of guidelines for citing any type of source. So much like rules get updated in athletics, just like in writing, rules get updated every so often. So this group of scholars will meet and update the rules for writing. Why should we care about MLA? Well, MLA citations, correct ones that is, will help a curious reader be able to retrace your research steps. So say that you write about something really interesting and you find really good facts and textual evidence and you present it in your paper or your presentation and someone wants to know where you got this information. Well, they can retrace your steps through MLA citations. Also, it will help you build credibility and be more likely to win an argument. Doesn't everyone want to win their argument? Well, in MLA format, it will help you create a stronger argument. Next, it will give credit to the people who've done the work that you want to talk about. Everybody wants credit for what they do, and so you have to give credit where credit is due. Ha! I made that rhyme. Didn't even mean to. It will also allow you to avoid a charge of plagiarism. Plagiarism literally means in Latin to steal. So plagiarism means that you have copied someone else's work and you have said that it is your own. That is stealing. So MLA citations allow you to avoid plagiarism. So there are two things to keep track of when you are citing in MLA format. First is going to be in-text citations, which sometimes you will also hear them called parenthetical citations. Parenthetical just means parentheses, so that's why it's parenthetical citations. It's also in-text citations because it's found in the text of your writing or in the text of your presentation. The second thing you want to keep track of is a works cited page. This is where all of your citations will be. For example, if you used To Kill a Mockingbird to put a direct quote in your paper, you would cite the novel To Kill a Mockingbird on your works cited page. And we're about to go over how you do both in-text citations and a works cited page. In-text citations, as I said before, are also called parenthetical notations. So how exactly are citations handled within the essay and what needs to be cited? Anything that doesn't come from you, including direct quotes, paraphrasing, another source's research, theories or ideas, another source's argument or opinions, facts that are not commonly known, another source's visual tables, graphs, images, statistics, etc. All of those items need to be cited. Now, if it is common knowledge, for example, who was our first president of the United States, most people would know that that is George Washington. So that is common knowledge, and you would not have to cite that. If you are struggling with what is common knowledge and what is not common knowledge, then please make sure you ask me before you assume it's okay to put that knowledge in your paper. The works cited page used to be called a bibliography, but it was updated now to be called works cited. It is a complete list of all sources used in your paper, and it's located on the very last page of your essay. It should be specific and easy to follow, and I'm going to teach you a format that will help you remember how to complete a works cited page. So first, let's start with in-text citations. Suppose you wanted to use a line from a book or an online article that you found as part of your essay. you're going to include the author's last name and the page numbers where you found the material. For example, then all of a sudden, it was like I opened my eyes one day and noticed that the world is full of beautiful girls, and I've had a hard time thinking about anything else ever since. Bieber, 71. All right, so yes, I am going to say Justin Bieber. He does have a book. Shaking my head. Anyways, so I want you to notice that there is no period after the word since. The period goes at the end of the parenthesis right here. There is no comma after Bieber. So this is how your in-text citation should be set up. No period here, quotation mark, space right here, parenthesis, author's last name, space, page number, in parenthesis, period. Yes, as I said before, Justin Bieber wrote a book, sort of. Another way to handle in-text citations is with signal phrases. If you use the author's name in your sentence, you need only to include the page number as the citation. So, for example, also Kim Kardashian, she kind of sort of wrote a book too. In her autobiography, Kim Kardashian explains that my first white Range Rover was so special. It was the first car I got on my own. It had pink trim and it was such a smooth ride, so comfortable to be in and luxurious. Let's take a look at this in-text citation. So why did I not use her last name in this parenthesis? Well, if I go back to the quote up here, this lead-in right here, this signal phrase, I put Kim K's name right here, okay? So because her name is here, I don't have to put it down here. So notice there's no period here. There's my quotation mark, space, parenthesis, page number, close parenthesis, and the period goes right here at the very end. Students really forget to put this period here, so remember to put the period. And yes, the Kardashians are also published authors, really. And I'm sad to say that I actually own this book, if you would like to borrow it. So what if you're just summarizing someone else's idea or information? You are still going to need a citation. So let's use a more academically sound source for this example. Let's talk about Stephen King, and he wrote a memoir on the craft of writing, and it is called On Writing, such a clever title. Before finding success as a writer, Stephen King worked as a high school English teacher, a profession he admits zapped most of his creative energy. So here you notice I do not have a direct quote from the book. So the same information could be presented like this. This would be a direct quote, and then up here would be paraphrasing this direct quote. So the direct quote from the book is, King said, I liked my coworkers and I loved the kids, but by most Friday afternoons, I felt as if I'd spent the week with jumper cables clamped to my brain. A little bit more on paraphrasing. As long as you don't use the exact same words, you're good. If you look in your guided notes for number 6, it says, is this in-text citation correctly formatted? Why or why not? It is from Justin Bieber's book. It says, I like girls, 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 girls. No, it is not cited correctly. You need to take away the period after girls. The last girls, that is. Take the P and period away in the in-text citation. Next up is a works cited page. So a works cited page is going to be where all of the information about the books you used is found. And this is a really easy way to remember how to do the works cited page. And you know, I'm not opposed to like a citation machine, but if the citation machine gives you an incorrect citation, you need to know how to fix it. And so I recommend knowing all 9 of these steps in this exact order before you use a citation machine. You always need to know these 9 steps in this order, and it will help you. The work cited should include these 9 core elements if the information is available. So what does that mean? These 9 elements are not always going to be found. So just because you find the title of the source doesn't mean it has a container, doesn't have number 3, okay? So basically, they tell you in the MLA 8th edition book to just use your good judgment. And as it states on page 4 in the MLA handbook, there's often more than one correct way to document a source. All right, so first things first. Let's talk about the number 1, the last name, comma, first name, period. That's going to be the name of the author. Sometimes an author only has one name. For example, the Odyssey, the epic The Odyssey, is written or as told by Homer. He only has one name just because, like, he's legit a rock star. So you would just put Homer, period. Or let's say you're using a lyric from a song and you're going to quote like a group, an artist. You would just, let's say you're using Migos. You would just do Migos, period. All right. Next, number 2, an example of a source. So this is going to be the title of the source. This is a standalone book title. If you've used the entire book, could be a chapter or a section title if you used only that part. Could be a newspaper, magazine, an academic journal article title, a website article, headline or title, or it could be a YouTube video title. I'm here to tell you, you can cite just about anything. You can cite social media, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. You can cite any of that. It's all up for grabs. Number 3, title of the container. So where was that information contained? So for example, when we use your textbook for several reading assignments in this class, you will use the container of the story is going to be your textbook. So for example, we'll read The Odyssey by Homer. The Odyssey is found in your textbook. So the Odyssey is contained, kind of like a container that you eat out of or store things in. The Odyssey is contained in your 9th Lit textbook. So that is what you would put for the title of the container. So it could be a book title, a title of an academic journal, a main website, a database name, or it could be like an online streaming provider such as Netflix or YouTube, Hulu, etc. Next, number 4, if it's important to what you're writing about, please notice that that is bolded and it says if. If it's important to what you're writing about, include information about any contributors mentioned on a title page, including edited by, introduction by, translated by, illustrated by, narrated by. One of the best examples I can think of for this is if you're citing the Bible. There are so many different translations of the Bible. You got the King James Version, New King James. You got the New Living. There's a lot of additions to that translation. So this would be a time where you would want to put what kind of translation it is. Also, in the Odyssey, for example, it's translated. It was originally written in Greek. We can't read Greek. They have to translate it into English so we can read it. And so here you would want to put that is translated by Robert Fitzgerald. So sometimes these are important to put if you think it's important. And I will let you know in class if it's important or not. All right, next, 5 and 6, version and number issue. All right, so these will be numbers. So like 5 is going to be like a version, edition, a volume. And then number 6 would be like a number or an issue. Number 7, the name of the publisher. This is going to be whoever published the text, the article, the company. Was it Harvard? Was it Pearson? Also, if you're citing a song, this is going to be the record label, the company that the artist recorded with. In the new 8th edition of MLA, they say that you can drop and omit the business word names in these names, the publisher names, such as company, corporation, etc. Number 8, publication date. This is very important. This is the published date for articles and online materials and the copyright date for printed materials. You should be able to find in your book the copyright for a book in the very front on the back of the title page. Also on albums, you want to make sure you look at the date. YouTube, Netflix, you need to check out the date on those because it does matter when it was copyrighted. It helps with your writing and your presentation. All right, and lastly, number 9, you're going to use the exact page number for printed materials. So say you're using a novel, you're going to put a P period for a single page that you use. But if you're using multiple pages, like let's say I'm using pages 5 through 9, I would put PP period 5-9. Next, use the exact URL for online sources. Don't use URL shorteners. You would omit the HTTP : // etc. You don't have to put the exact URL. That's new for the 8th edition as well. It's also teacher preference too. I don't really care for you to put that. So you may want to ask your future English teachers if they like that. Next is punctuation. That's really important. So now that you know 1 through 9, you need to make sure that you have that memorized and you remember it somehow. But you want to make sure that you know where your punctuation goes. So for example, here after author, you get a period. After the title of the source, you get a period. And then from 3 on, you use a comma for the rest of your citation. And then down here at the end, you end the complete citation with a period. A lot of students forget this period. If you don't put a period, it doesn't signal a stop. All right, we have to signal that your citation has stopped. All right, so when you put it all together, it kind of looks like this. So if you use the whole book, if we're talking about Stephen King's memoir on writing, you would do author, that's King, Stephen, period. You would do on writing. Notice it is italicized. So if you're using a larger work, you're going to italicize it. If you're using a shorter work, it's going to be in quotation marks. So for example, if I'm citing a song, you would put the song in quotation marks because it is the shorter work, and then you would put the name of the album in italices. Here you've got your publishing company and then the copyright date. So notice we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 elements in this citation, and there are 9 steps. So obviously I didn't use all 9 steps here. Again, you're not going to use all 9 steps. Next example, if you use just a single page, it would be King, Stephen, period. That's the author. Number 2, on writing, that is the title of the source. Then we'll move on to, we don't have 3, 4, 5, or 6, but we do have a publisher. It's Scribner. Then we do have number 8, we have a publication date. And then we're just going to use 1 page out of this memoir. So we would do P period 73. Next, if you use a clump of pages, it would be King, Stephen, period, on writing, Scribner, 2000, and then, because up here I just use 1 page, but let's say I use pages 73 through 84, I would put PP period 73-84 period. So for this citation, which of the 9 core elements are included? Well, you've got your author, number 2, the title of the source, number 7, the publisher, number 8, the publication date, and then number 9, the location. I just covered this, but notice that on writing is italicized because it's a larger work. But again, for smaller works, such as article titles, poems, short stories, songs, etc., you would use quotation marks instead. And that would also pertain to like a Netflix series. You would put those in quotation marks as well. The name of the episode in quotation marks, and then the name of the show would be italicized. All right, so let's try one together. I want you to build a works cited entry. All the info you need is on your note sheet. So I'll give you a second to do that. You might want to pause this video because I'm about to continue talking. So go ahead and pause now and try the example on your own. All right, moving on to how to cite your example for number 15 on your note sheet. So what would the citation look like for this article on Albert Einstein? It would be Burger, Andy, period, all in his head. Now, a lot of students make a mistake and they don't put all in his head as the next step. That is the name of the article, all right? That is the title of the source. So that's number 2 on your 1 through 9 list. All in his head, that is the shorter work. So it would be in quotation marks here. And it is contained in Discover Magazine. And it is volume 37, number 5, Comback Publishing. June 2015 is our copyright date, and then the article is found on the pages of 26 through 31. And don't forget your period. So a little bit more about containers, which is number 3. You may need to add a little bit more info about where you found your information because databases such as e-reading platforms and media streaming services also all host other published works. If you use any of these, you'll just add an extra scoop of info to your citation. So for example, you want to use an article from an online journal database called Gale Group. Here's what you have. And you know, this is kind of getting into a little bit more than what I'm probably going to have you guys doing at this point. But towards the middle of the semester, we'll explore this a little bit more. So we'll be using the database Galileo through our school system. I mean, I use this in college too. I have publications on Galileo. You can find them. But what we have here, your citation would look something like this. And see all this shenanigans down here? You really don't need all of that. So I would tell you as your teacher, like, you can omit all this and just put a period right here. Okay. All right, and so you have a sample works cited in your notes. Just make sure you go over it again and let me know if you have any questions. It should say works cited at the top. You have your header up here. You have 1-inch margins. Your header is a 1/2 inch from the top. Here you have your works cited page in alphabetical order. And see these indentions right here? So this is one citation right here. This is what we call a hanging indention, and I'll show you how to do that on a Google document. Notice that double space all lines in here. It's 12-point Times New Roman font, and you definitely need to alphabetize your entries. So if you do have more questions on MLA format, you can always contact me and ask me the questions, but you can also get the book at the library, or MLA has a website. It's style.mla.org. So congratulations, you're now ready to successfully navigate academic articles. Pat yourself on the back. Hooray.